Why we need self-help for post-traumatic stress and complex post-traumatic stress. One of the reasons is that C-PTSD is only a recent diagnosis. It's only recently been recognised. In 2020, the World Health Organization introduced complex post-traumatic stress as a new diagnostic category in the International Classification of Diseases. But many classifications still only recognise post-traumatic stress. So your diagnosis, even though you have the symptoms, the additional symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress, may simply still be that you have PTSD, post-traumatic stress. There are some issues with getting diagnosed in the first place. Many people go on suffering but undiagnosed and not diagnosed until much later in life, as I was. And there are quite a few contributing factors to this. One of them is it can be difficult to describe the symptoms, especially when you don't have any idea what's causing them or if they've become your norm. So you get used to them over time and believe it's just you. You'll be aware that you're not doing very well, but you may not want to seek help, and there are reasons for this as well. We often turn to the internet as our first way of seeking information and answers, or to gain clarity. And this is one of the reasons why these things exist, because they're there for people who are searching to find answers. The symptoms tend to lead to not getting professional help. So one of the prevailing symptoms of post-traumatic stress is a simple decline in hope and a feeling that no one can help you, no matter how hard you try, and that things won't get any better. It's just you are just not good enough. And this is partly due to many years of suffering and not getting anything that actually did help you and not feeling understood or supported. Add in the other symptoms of post-traumatic stress, like a lack of trust in others, a tendency to isolate, sometimes profound procrastination and exhaustion, and a feeling of shame and embarrassment, etc., etc. And this can lead you to avoid doctors and not show up to appointments. If we have been gaslighted and intimidated or abused, we may have a lot of self-doubt and swing from knowing that there's definitely something wrong with us to feeling like we're faking it or making it all up. And this is actually a classic symptom of complex post-traumatic stress. If we are avoiding doctors, then we most likely don't have a long-term doctor who has gotten to know us and can see the pattern of symptoms and growing list of things wrong with us that don't have an obvious physical cause. I'm talking about things like fibromyalgia, skin issues, autoimmune issues, bowel issues, aches and pains, migraines, sleep issues, and other chronic health issues that are just adding up. We may be too embarrassed or to simply discuss that we've lost our job again and we're homeless and not coping. We tend to go to a doctor for one symptom only. And often the medical appointment system is limited to one problem per short appointment. And we can't afford a longer appointment where we might actually be able to discuss some of these issues. And we feel that they're just too many. Might feel like we're going and we feel like a bit of a hypochondriac. We are given treatments that don't work. For example, given sleeping tablets that make us feel even more groggy the next day, for a problem that is related to fear in sleeping, or told to eat more fibre or buy a cream for a skin rash that we can't afford and doesn't work because the skin problem's coming from a psychological problem, a not coping problem, and a biological problem related to C-PTSD or post-traumatic stress. And this fuels our lack of hope and our mistrust in a system. We will try alternative therapies, and these are also limited in their effect and can cost a lot of money that we don't have. We may try things like mindfulness and meditation, but because we have suppressed our true emotions, they can lead to flashbacks, both visual and emotional, and these can be embarrassing, especially if they're done in front of a group or in front of others. So we're more likely to just say, oh, that doesn't work, and drop it, when it actually can work if it's guided along the right way. There are often addictive coping strategies coexisting with PTSD and complex PTSD. And these are things we've adapted as a way to cope, like smoking pot, alcohol, binge eating, gaming, etc., etc. And no matter how much we try or want to give these things up, we often fail because they're our only coping strategies. And we're not treating the problem in the first place. The treatment options for these, for giving up an addictive behaviour, are very limited in Australia and often involve a 12-step program that asks you to hand over things to a higher power. This can often be a religious power, but not necessarily. But there's also punishments for non-compliance, and this doesn't treat PTSD or complex PTSD. So this can work for some people, but a lot of people find that it doesn't work for them, and there's a lot of relapses because you don't replace it with something else other than this higher power that can help you with the symptoms of trauma. So therefore you get re-traumatized, and this harms your self-esteem because you feel like a failure. Confirming the belief that there is no hope and nothing works. Nobody wants a mental health diagnosis. There is still so much uncertainty, fear, stigma, and shame and embarrassment associated with having a mental health diagnosis. Will they lock me up? Will they try to medicate me? Will they make me incompetent? Will I be stuck with this label forever? And on and on. These are all fears, and some of them are justified. After spending most of our energy to avoid further trauma and the symptoms, the last thing we want to do is to have to talk to a stranger about things that happen to us. We don't want to be re-traumatized or triggered. And what if we have brain fog or a panic attack and can't remember it all, and all those other self-doubts that we have? We also worry that we may not be believed, and this can often leave us feeling worse, and is why talk therapies on their own don't often work for people that have PTSD. If you are not coping with life, chances are your finances are also affected. And many that suffer with post-traumatic stress and complex post-traumatic stress have issues with employment or running a successful business. This can have profound effects on their financial situation, particularly if you've ended up with long-term unemployment and are dealing with an outdated employment system that punishes non-compliance and doesn't support you even if you have a diagnosis. This can quickly escalate into homelessness and suicide attempts. It can just seem sometimes that it's easier to stay home and stay in bed and hide and put it all off till you're feeling better, which doesn't work. It just becomes too hard. It is becoming increasingly difficult to get a doctor who bulk bills in Australia. However, seeing a doctor is the first step to getting professional help. Once you have voiced your concerns, you can ask for a mental health care plan. This will include a referral to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. The doctor may suggest a diagnosis and talk to you about this. Medicare offers an initial 6 subsidised sessions. However, when these run out, you will need to go back to see your doctor to get more referrals for more sessions. And this costs money each time if your doctor doesn't bulk bill. You get up to 10 sessions per year with an additional 10 to cover for the COVID situation. So finding a psychologist that specialises in complex trauma and bulk bills and has a vacancy and is someone you trust can be like finding a needle in a haystack. If you can do this, I highly recommend it, because this is often the best option. The waiting list to get in can be really long, and you are not offered any help while you wait. You're just left out there in the void to wait until you can get help. If you can afford to pay up front, the cost of these sessions is between about $150 and $300 per session, and you could need a lot. The Medicare rebate will go towards some of that, so you may not have to pay the full cost. The time between sessions can go for weeks or months, with each session usually lasting between about 1 to 1.5 hours. In between that, again, your therapist may suggest things that you can do, but apart from that, you're left on your own. So there are things you can do, though, that you can do to help yourself, and this is where self-help can come in. You can do these things whether you've started therapy or not, or whether you don't ever intend to start therapy. These things are available for you to help yourself. So there are certain things that we need to do to begin to heal from complex post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic stress. One of the first things that we need to do is we need to deal with immediate safety and survival needs. Now, this may seem obvious, but it's often where therapists don't start. This may include enough reliable money to live on and assistance to apply for a disability pension, for example. Because often that can be overwhelming to deal with the system, just to know that you can apply in the first place and to actually figure out what you need to do to get it and to find the evidence to support your claim. It includes other things for your survival needs, include things like a safe, clean place to live. Many people don't have this. They may be in a domestic violence situation or don't actually have a place to live, or they may be dealing with a hoarding or unclean living environments. All of this affects how you recover from trauma. You may have untreated medical conditions that can be serious, including dental problems. We also need one person, just one, that we can trust and feel safe with. These are basic human rights, yet sadly many get to the point of not having these, and this only makes their suffering worse, especially when you don't know why. And this happened to me more than once. And here I am now helping you. So you can get over this. We need to get clarity about what's wrong with us. Could we have PTSD? Could it be complex PTSD? We kind of want to know a little bit about this before we get to a doctor because of all those fears. I have a free quiz on my website to help you gain some clarity about this, but please note that it cannot diagnose you. Only a doctor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist can diagnose you. You also can't diagnose yourself. So we need clarity about the fact that it's not our fault and why we do certain behaviours and have certain beliefs. This often starts with an official diagnosis, and then they just start to make sense from there on. You feel validated and seen, and the process of understanding why and how it all happened allows a space for self-compassion as we begin to fully realise what happened to us is not our fault. And we are the ones actually responsible for moving forward and making changes to improve our lives and finding out how to do that. There are many wonderful people sharing specific PTSD and complex PTSD professional information. They're sharing their personal journeys and they're sharing ways to move forward. And they do this on things like YouTube, blogs, podcasts, websites, etc. These are all self-help modalities. There's also many books being written. You can learn and discover in your own time and place and when you feel up to it. So it doesn't rely on you to turn up to an appointment. If you have a therapist, they might even be able to recommend some of these to you. We need to authentically connect with others and to see how they have recovered and moved forward so that we can see evidence that this is possible for us too, so that we can develop more hope. We can do this in support groups, either in person or online, through friendships with others that also are suffering from PTSD or complex PTSD. Maybe it's a Facebook group, a YouTube channel where you can chat in the comments, or specific courses with support groups attached so that you can go along with others that are on the same journey as you are. We need an environment where we feel safe to be ourselves and to get to know ourselves. And where we feel we belong, we're wanted and encouraged, not judged, not punished. This can be with a trusted therapist, a support group, or a good friend or partner, or even an online community. And we need specific, easy tools we can use right now to help with the symptoms. These tools can include things like writing, behaviour modification, memory tools, suggestions, how to be creative or develop a creative outlet. For me, it was painting, as you can see in the background. I started painting water, and this was extremely therapeutic to me. I also moved to a place where I'm right near the water and downsized. So these sorts of things become tools in a way to manage life. We need to give ourselves permission to sleep, to rest, to not do things, to say no, and to learn to set boundaries. And you can learn to do these through courses that are designed for post-traumatic stress, and hope to develop these for you. This is what I'm working on at the moment. We need to find ways to feel and express suppressed emotions safely without being re-triggered or re-traumatized. And this is not usually what we think it is. It's not talking about it and going back down memory lane or into the past. And it can be quite interesting and very healing using therapies like EDMR therapy, brain spotting, and other techniques. These are therapies that you usually do with a therapist, but there are also techniques that you can learn to do on your own. We need to develop the wise, loving part of ourselves, which is what I'm about. This is the evolved adult part that may have been squashed while we were busy just getting through the day. We need to challenge some of our old beliefs and to get to know who we are and find ways to trust our own judgment. Because often these judgments have let us down. We may not have seen red flags in relationships. We may have made other poor judgments in life. But that judgment, that part of us that actually does know, is still inside us. We just need to find ways to get to it. There's a process that I teach. It's about writing a letter that's from this wise, loving part of yourself. It's a free course, and I offer it on my website, wiselovingself.com. This is a letter that is ongoing, so you add to it the more that you learn, and it also helps with memory issues. So it's a reminder of who you are, where you've come from, what you're doing to help yourself heal, things that you need to remember about healing, and a whole lot more things. We need to develop our self-love and our self-power. That's in there. And there are ways that you can develop these things that aren't things just like, buying yourself some flowers or a facial, for example. Ideally, these are all things that you work on with a good trauma therapist over time. But you can also begin to work on these with self-help information and tools specifically designed for PTSD and complex PTSD, so that you can start your healing journey right now and keep it moving forward with or without a therapist. So if you'd like to know more information about this from me, then just don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, and I hope to see you next time in another video. Good luck with your journey. Thank you.